Today's art tutorial is a mashup of doodles and watercolor florals. This one is beginner friendly and it's a lot of fun, so grab a brush and join me. Hey friends, welcome back. My name is Shayda Campbell and today we're talking sketchy watercolor florals. We're going to doodle some flowers with pen and fill them in with a pop of color using paint. This is part of my 50 ways to fill a sketchbook series, so you're going to want something similar to the 𝔖𝔞𝔪 𝔬𝑥L sketch pad that takes wet mediums really well. You'll also need watercolor paint. It's a good time to pull out some brushes that you might not use that often because we're doing things messy and free. And finally, you'll need a fine liner and a pencil and eraser. And friends, I've got a little giveaway for you. If you'd like to win a 𝔖𝔞𝔪 𝔬𝑥L sketch pad as well as the paintbrushes I'm using, make sure to enter our giveaway. All you have to do is subscribe to this channel, like this video, and leave us a comment below. It's that simple. Enter now to win. And I'm going to start by creating a layout guide in pencil. I'm placing circles where I will doodle the flowers because yes, we're just drawing 5 flowers, but I want them to look nice on the page. So now I've got a guide, and the first flower I want to draw is a peony. And we're getting really messy and free. We're just doodling. So I do this messy little circle filled with lines for the stamen, and then I go around and around doing these bumpy curving lines to show multiple petals, and maybe we'll sketch a leaf in there. Let's do it again. This big wheel of little lines, and then we surround that with these bumpy petals. And that's really all there is. I keep going out, and then if it's not quite balanced, you can add some tiny little petals on the edges. I'm gonna move a little fast because I'm drawing fast. I'm just drawing really sketchy, messy. That's the whole idea here. Next up, we're going to work out a dahlia. So starting in pencil, draw a circle. And then I fill it with these tiny little lines. And from there, I want to just go around and around, very much like the peony, but we're going to do these little pointed oval shaped petals. And you can give yourself some guidelines if you need it to show kind of where each round of petals will sit, if that makes sense. And then I'm going over it in pen. So start with the circle in the middle, and then you're going to go outward and do this crown of pointed petals, and then outward one more time after that. But I'm very messy. This is very free and messy. And then we'll leave it alone. There's our sketchy doodle dahlia. Next, we're going to doodle cosmos. So I'm laying out a guide for where 3 flowers will sit. And basically, I'm just drawing like the most simple flower, a little circle for the center, and then some big cutesy petals. And we might place some stems and maybe a little petal going off here or there to give the look of a little bud. We'll go over everything in pen. You kind of wiggle that pen just a little bit so they don't look too perfect or too smooth, and you get away from a simple flower looking like an icon of a flower, basically. And we'll do some little messy leaves, and that's it for the cosmos. Okay, next up, we're kind of sticking to a summer theme, so I'm going to doodle phlox, starting with a guide again, doing circles there to show me where I'll place the big, messy phlox blossoms. And phlox are kind of made up, the flower is sort of made up of all these tiny little flowers, so think almost of drawing popcorn, like you're doing these curving lines, you see a few little flowers in there, and it all kind of comes together with lots of little dots and curly cues, and it's just quite messy. You can get very, very scribbly and doodly. These are supposed to be sketchy, messy florals, and it's going to look really fun when we add the splash of color with the watercolor paints. For my final floral doodle, I'm trying a gladiola, start with the curving stem and then just place these circles that get a little smaller as you go towards the top, and then they kind of just turn into little buds. And you can see I kind of create the flowers by doing a messy line around the circle. Keep that stem running through the center, maybe a long leaf. Let's do it again. The flowers are these circles, but the line is very broken and messy. And then we do a little curving line to show that the flower is really conical. At the top of the flower, we're gonna draw some little buds and half-open flowers and just kind of scribbling all that in, and maybe a couple leaves. Okay, and that's it. I got rid of all my pencil marks, and now we're just gonna add some splashes of color. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. If you have just a cheap set of paints from the dollar store, that is perfect for this. So if you've been wanting to try watercolor and you've been afraid, try sketching and doodling first, and then just adding like a splash of color. Like here in the center of the peony, I'm just gonna put a big splotch of orange. That's it. We just filled the peony in with a bit of light pink. And then for the leaves, we're just placing a big splash. You guessed it, a splash of green. Don't fill this doodle in too carefully. The color looks better a little messy. And friends, just a reminder that patrons of the channel can get my summer Sketchy Doodles wallpaper for your phone or mobile device. That's available on Patreon as part of the weekly bonus content. It's $2 a month or $22 for the year to join and support this channel. For the flocks, I'm starting with a blend of pink and purple. So I want this really cool sort of pink, cool magenta. And I'm just filling in the area, keeping it very messy, letting a little bit of that white page show through so that it doesn't look too fussy or too perfect. And then if you start with a light color, we can add a few dots of the darker, cool magenta, and that just flows out into the area really nicely and gives the look of many tiny blossoms. While the purple is wet, we can add our green, just splash it on there, a couple splotches for the leaves. Don't let it be too perfect. We want to see the doodle, and we want the doodle and the color to look almost like they're a little separate. That's going to give us a nice illustrative, sketchy look. I'm going to grab a dark yellow to fill in my gladiolas. Of course, you could do the glads any color. I've added that quick splash of yellow, and then while the pigment is still wet, I'm going to rinse my brush, pick up a little of that green. It's a sap green, I believe, and we're going to run that through, making it appear that the stem is running all the way behind those flowers. So just add little dots of green kind of where the flowers meet and along the leaves. And then we can take a darker yellow or a little raw sienna and just add a dot at the center of each flower. For my Cosmo, I'm going to grab some pink and just, again, a little splotch of color on each petal. I like to do some petals a really light pink, some petals a little bit of a darker pink to give it an organic, playful look. We'll put a little splash of yellow at the center of each flower, and then take a light green and just run your brush along those stems and branches and paint those messy leaves and little buds. Keep it all really free. You can always add to your doodle by, painting another leaf or whatever you like. And finally, let's add a bit of color to our dahlia. I'm starting with a nice burgundy on the end of my brush and just kind of doing that first round of petals. And then I mix a little more water in and I grab a lighter burgundy, and that's what I'm using to fill in the rest of the flower. And just again, very messy, very organic. I want it to look messy. Finally, I've mixed purple into the burgundy, and I'm just putting a little bit of dotting around the stamen, and then I want to let that dry. While it's drying, we're going to work a little bit of wet on dry. We can do things like add a few little lines to the flower with a darker pink or a dark orange. On the gladiolas, I'm going to take that yellow ochre on the tip of my brush, and we're just going to put some lines on the flower, maybe a hint more color at the center there to give it that conical look. And then when the dahlia has dried, we'll come back here and add a little orange or yellow at the center. This was the only flower I didn't draw a leaf on, so I kind of just wanted to do some green splotches to make it look as though it has a nice little messy leaf there. And that's it for my sketchy watercolor summer flowers. This took about 20 minutes if you're wondering about time. It was so fun to do, and I hope you'll give it a try in your own sketchbook.